Rhodey stepped in as Sheets is at the Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga thing with his wife. Have fun, Sheets. How you doing today, Jake? What's going on in your world?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Just had some nice pasta dinner from a restaurant to go, and ready to get in on this slate here.
Yeah, I mean, no, let's get into it a little bit. I know you're not playing very many lineups tonight. What is your sort of focus? I know you mentioned a little bit in Discord, but for those people who weren't there, what are you focusing on as far as pitching goes?
There's a lot of different options today. If you're MMEing, I say there's some good shots, some good pitchers that you can take shots on. But I usually say the top. I really like Sean Manaea tonight. He's definitely projecting well. They're giving him a lot of innings as well. So he's pitching a lot, and he's been pitching really well. Is he coming in that low owned against San Diego with no Tatis?
Is that right? And he was just dominant against the same team.
Wow. He's probably a lock for me. I'll probably take Wheeler as another lock. He is a little higher owned. If you want to spend down a little bit, you got Walker, I think. Cease in good spots. Molly is a little priced up, but he's in a good spot. A little bit lower ownership if you're looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
Walker Buehler's down on the list a little bit. Houston can get to him.
No one gets to him.
No, you like him? You like Buehler?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love him today, but it's funny because I heard other people talking about Houston stacks, and I'm just going, okay, light your money on fire. This guy literally doesn't have bad outings. He just doesn't. He's 27 of 30 for quality starts. His what has he done lately? Look at it. What does he give up? 3 hits and a walk a game, basically, is what he gives up. He's a monster. He's as sure of a thing as a pitcher in baseball with Jacob deGrom hurt right now, and he is going to win the Cy Young Award this year.
Yeah. You're probably right. He's a monster. Houston doesn't grade out well for me at all either. So, they're mid-pack, but they're not on a 15-game slate. Or is it 15 or 13 games? What is
15,
it? 15. That's what I thought. You don't need to go to Houston stacks, I don't think.
Yeah, so that's – I like the Dodgers a little bit actually against McCullers. But I don't not a ton. I mean, and again, I would, speaking to your Manaea point, I like him a little bit too, but I feel like there's other guys. I don't feel like it's hard to get to Buehler, so I have more Buehler than I do Manaea. I have more of Molly than I do of Manaea, but they're close. Actually, no, I have about the same of both of those guys. Wheeler is going to be in most of my things. I like Maeda quite a bit at low ownership also. I like Ryu. I'm not Taijuan Walker. I just feel like what is going on with him. But I don't know. It's a little bit frustrating. Kevin may have just written that just a second after I said it. But yeah, I do like Ryu. What's up, K9 Bronco? Let's get it, man. Guys, say what's up when you in chat. Pop in any questions. We're going to be going on for a half hour, and that's about it. But I think that, as far as pitching goes, I'm just looking at my DraftKings ownership because other than Wheeler, I did want to spread out in some places. And one thing I'm doing also is just I'll take a shot on this kid King from New York for the Yankees. He, look, there's no guarantee that this is very likely going to turn into a bullpenish type of game, but there's no guarantee about that. His last time he pitched, I think it was second time the last time he pitched, he pitched well in the minors. He had 9 strikeouts, I think in 6 or 7 innings, 6 2/3 or something like that, 80 something pitches. If he can, it's a weak enough lineup, even though I actually like pieces of Baltimore too. I think there's a chance he could get 15 fantasy points for you and potentially get the win if they somehow go 5. I think it's on the table. So I have a tiny bit interest in him where I'm getting a little bit chalkier with my offenses that have Colorado and the Yankees. Which would bring us over to offenses. I'm mostly going to be, it literally is Wheeler and then a bunch of these other guys for me. Ryu, Maeda, a lot more Maeda than most people. I'm about 25-30% on him. Patino, I was going to play, but I didn't end up getting. Obviously, didn't end up playing. Cease is the one I probably could use a little more exposure to because I do like him in general. And Buehler is another one who I'm going to, even though I've got him about 20% right now, I might go a little bit higher on that. And I like him a lot on FanDuel.
So you did say you like Gil a little bit then, huh?
Yeah, I like Gil. I like him as a long shot tournament. I wouldn't expect much from it, but if he cruises through the first 3 innings, they're going to give him a chance to go at least 5, and that's totally possible with a pitcher they've never seen before with reasonable K stuff. So I'm willing to take that shot. That's sort of what I'm doing here.
Okay.
Let me let's talk about that. I've got way too much. We'll get into lineups in a minute. I have the Cubs less stacked, but I have a lot of filler pieces from that team, which I think will be a pretty popular thing. I'm okay because I have some stacks that are off the board. Why don't you talk about who you're stacking and sort of how you're building?
You talked a little bit about it already. I think the Yankees come in at the best stack on the top. I know they underperformed probably last night for most people that were
Yep.
on them. The Dodgers also come in pretty high. We talked a little bit about them a second ago. You might not be on them as much, but then the Rockies, you said you were liking tonight either. They're coming in pretty good. Number 3 there. The Brewers picked up a little bit. They've jumped up a little bit more than they were earlier when I gave them in the Discord, guys. If you're not in the Discord, guys, jump on over there too. I know a couple people messaged me earlier, who you on tonight? Who you on? I was like, I gave away a bunch of picks in the Discord, so jump on over there, get in the chat, guys. We're always active in the chat. Boston Red Sox are there against Willie. You got Braves against Leicester. They're projecting pretty decent up there. I like them as a stack. So if you're MME and some of those lower owned teams, definitely the target. I think the Braves aren't coming in that bad ownership.
Yeah, I love the Braves.
Are low owned.
I love the Braves. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. No, you're good.
The ball's not really flying these days in St. Louis. Talking about the humidifier thing. The humidor. I don't know how much I'm exactly going with that, but I do love the Braves, and I thought I was going to end up with more than I currently have, but I do have a good amount. And this lineup should be really tough for Leicester. Even if it was in Atlanta, I feel like the run total would be a lot higher, and I really like this spot. So I'm good with that. What you didn't mention, the game you didn't mention is probably the one I'm heaviest on, which is Boston Detroit. I like both sides of that game quite a bit. JD Martinez is my favorite overall play on the slate. Not that I usually have those for hitters exactly, but he, Judge, Stanton, pretty nothing revolutionary there. But that's who I have as probably my 3 highest owned hitters. Aside, and I have Bodie as the filler for the Cubs. I do sort of like some of the Cubs. I like Wisdom. I like Hap. But I don't feel like you need to stack them. I'm okay with taking pieces of that game. Same with the Colorado side. I'm not fully stacking as much. I have a little bit of it, but very little compared to what I've got elsewhere. I think the Rockies are a little too popular for me. I know the Yankees will be popular. I like the power upside a little bit better. But so I've got it like Boston, Detroit is my highest owned, with the Yankees pretty close actually between the 3 of them. Atlanta, and then Atlanta mostly for mini stacks. I have a lot of 3 to 5. I have some 5 men, but I have a lot of 3 and 4 men stacks. And then mixing in Milwaukee. That's the other main stack that I've got 5 men of. Do you have any interest in them? Or I know you've been on them lately, but I do have some interest against these Pirates, even though they, wasn't great last night. It was okay in the end, but I do like Milwaukee, and I think they're getting a little bit overlooked because they're prices.
Yeah, they're grayed out pretty cheap. They're good point per dollar. I do want to say that I don't know if people heard me, but I did say Red Sox. I snuck it in there. I think Bobby didn't hear me. Against I said. So I definitely right on the same page with Bobby there with the Red Sox. Only 2 hitters are coming in high owned on that stack, Devers and Xander. So the rest of the guys are pretty easy filler. JD's lower owned. You got Hernandez leading off, lower owned. Duran batting second again, 3.4K. If you're into that, he's a little bit higher owned. Renfroe there coming 3.7. He's always been a great play. So a lot of good plays on Boston, I think.
Yeah, we still, as of right now, don't have their lineup yet, right? I don't have.
Yeah, I that's why I was giving a bunch of players that we think are in right now.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said positions. Projected position. Sorry.
No, I think you're right on, and in fact, I would take it a step further. I just wanted the fact that their lineup isn't out is on a 15-game slate. That's going to affect even what already had some ownership in it. You know what I mean? People are not just stuck on. Mostly, people are playing players who have the green check marks right now. When they added 30 lineups, that's what's happening.
You're right.
I think that's a really important thing to pay attention to, and that the later same thing with the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers against McCullers is a little more of a long shot thing. We know McCullers is good. I actually don't think I think it's a really bad matchup for McCullers, but it's not like playing the Red Sox at low ownership against Peralta. I mean, Jesus, what are we talking about here? If we can get two or 3 of the guys in our stack below 10%, we would love that. And there's a chance we could end up with all 3 basically around 10%. The only reason why it won't happen is because third base doesn't have another standout at the top, and shortstop other than Tim Anderson, who's really expensive, doesn't have another obvious standout outside of obviously Story. So I think that's why Bogarts and him will get some ownership, but I don't think the rest of them are going to be that highly owned. And Duran is the least priority for me, but I don't even mind him a little bit. Like, I just don't think that I'd rather play other guys 31 and 3,300 in combo stacks than I would play him. All right, guys, if there are any some questions, we're in there, and I'm going to try and get to them. So thoughts on Molly. We talked about it, Molly, a little bit. I prefer him on FanDuel where he's cheaper, which is the obvious thing that will happen with most people today. But I like him as a play on DraftKings. It's not that hard to get Molly. Whatever combination you want to get in with the 9,700 Wheeler, it's pretty easy to do with the way the lineups are tonight, right? So you can play Molly. It's just you've got Minaya. They've got Bueller, just a little more expensive. You've got some other guys at the top who I think deserve some consideration as well. That's just sort of where I am.
Yeah, DJ Stewart Adams, decent. Baltimore guys are cheap, so if you want to have one off in the Yankee Stadium, they were hot last night. Yeah, you can play them. I think this is good too. So I don't like Kichu, however you say that. Is that how you say it? Kichu?
Kikuchi.
Kikuchi. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
awful names, guys. Welcome in.
One thing that is interesting about Kikuchi is his strikeout rate. I actually think that there's an argument for like playing him over Ryu. It's been pretty good. He's got a 6.5 K prop, I believe. He's 8,800. I think that's a fine play. UFC's also right there. So I don't know. It just depends. The question of best way to get different is a weird question. So ask, do you mean with the Boston stack, or do you mean with because with Boston stack, you can play a stack and already be off the chalk, right? We agree on that one, Rody?
Yeah.
It's not going to be popular enough to where I think that should be what you worry about. Now in the giant field tournament, yeah, you can try and get different by playing Franchy Cordero. You could do something like that. But it's pretty straightforward. They're already going to be lower owned, so I don't think you need to go crazy, especially in the, even in the 111. Like, I still think that you can play a Boston stack with reasonable other plays that are going to be somewhat owned and be okay with it. I just don't think it's going to be as popular, especially like JD I've got 40% of, and I don't think he's going to be, what is he going to be, 8% owned, 7% owned? I mean, that's the way I'm approaching it. And
yeah,
I think you can
come in right there. So
yeah, no one's playing Detroit against the guy who's been one of the worst starters in baseball lately, in Garrett Richards. And I like Detroit a little bit. Somebody mentioned the White Sox as well. They're another team. I don't want to have every team, but because I'm multi-entering today, I have over 25% of each of the Yankees, Boston, Detroit, and then I have like 15% of Atlanta, and then I'm sort of between the White Sox and Dodgers as the other stack. That's sort of the way I'm slicing it up, and some of those are. Maybe they're not exactly 100% 5-man accurate, because some are 5-man, some are 4-men, some are 4-4s with Boston and Detroit that I've got. But I'm prioritizing Boston, Detroit, and the Yankees. A little less of Detroit than Boston, I guess, now that I look at my actual numbers. And I'm not fully stacking hardly, like a few percent, maybe two of my lineups have the Colorado, Chicago stacks, but I have a ton of exposure to guys like Bodie, Wisdom, McMahon, stuff like that. All right. Let's see. Are there any other questions that have popped up? The Blue Jays are fine. Look, I literally think you could be a profitable max entry player if you or a profitable strategy would be, no matter when the Blue Jays are going to be less than 10% owned, sort of as a stack, just play 20% of them. And in general, you're probably going to come out positive on the year the way they hit. But I just didn't get to them because, again, I can't play everybody tonight. So I'm taking the teams that I feel like have the most exceptional matchups. And I don't think Plesac is a guy who's the worst pitcher on the slate. So I'm not trying to attack that spot. How about you?
Yeah, I'm playing pretty light tonight, so I don't have any of the Blue Jays, but I was on them most of the year. I've been on the Blue Jays. Most of the year I've been on the Dodgers. So those are always two teams coming in. They're pricier players. They're higher owned. People are less likely to put them in their lineup. So they're definitely, if they're seeing lower ownership on a night, definitely can go off for 20 runs at any time. So I don't mind the call there.
Yeah, it's one of those, and the way they go off is great. The Detroit call is the Detroit one is the one that's, I think, the most off the board of anything I'm doing. I do also think that the Baltimore bats, again, I had the Gill thing, but I do like these. I think they'll get some ownership on Gamble, but I think Santander will be unowned again. Mountcastle as a first baseman is at 3,200. You got to have some interest in that for me at Yankee Stadium. I think that there are some Baltimore bats you can mix in, but I don't. Again, these are not stacks; those are just like 2 men, things like that. That's what I'm doing with those teams. All right, let's see what else we got here. There is, by the way, a tiny bit of weather concern in Colorado. So the way I'm approaching it is not a stacker. I mean, mostly I have some one-offs of Bodie, but mostly I have like 2 players from the game at a time or 3 or something. Usually I'd say full stack or fade those if it gets too risky on a 15-game slate. It doesn't look to be risky enough, but I, like most of you, and Roth just tweeted me about a basketball thing, so that's kind of funny. But I, like most of you, will be trying to tune into not just Roth but any other weather, because I'm not going to be the best weather resource. That's just not my strength. And I still think it looks okay enough based on everything I have looked at and read. So I'm not too worried about it. But if you hate the game already, you should feel great about it, because, hey, what if something does happen? Like, that's great. Where do you stand with the Colorado-Chicago game today?
Well, I just looked at them a little bit. They're not coming in that high owned, but it is a big slate. A couple of the guys are under single digits and a couple are like mid-teens, which is pretty high for, I'd say, 15 game. But yeah, their prices didn't come up that much. They're not priced up that high. I mean, you can get some pretty good prices, I think, on some of those guys.
The prices are beyond crazy.
Yeah, Hillard, 2.5 showing. I mean, he's batting 8th, but if you want to get weird guys, he's showing at 1% ownership. So maybe
guys you got Ortega at 26. That's why, that's what'll keep all the other value down, because there's so many of them. Bodie's 27. 26 for Hilliard, like you mentioned. 26 for Ortega, 25 for Hilliard. They're all, what I mean? There's a ton of them that are just super cheap. Even Ian Happ at 36 is like a really crazy cheap price that would stand out on most slates. But DraftKings is just not doing their Colorado homework this year, I guess.
Yeah, a couple of the pit guys grade out the best point per dollar.
Yep.
Park at shortstop, Gamble at outfield. A couple of the Chicago guys, Boyd, got some Frankie Swindle.
I know. Seriously.
Batting 6.
I mean, these guys suck. Like, that's the thing. Ortega doesn't suck, though. Bodie doesn't. Bodie has power.
Yeah, Bodie's right in there.
I'm siding with those guys and Gamble and Polanco over these Swindles. You know what I mean? And I'm using the value, but I'm using it as 2-man thing. So I really want some production. I don't want to count on the game going off and my guy getting 3 hits, because that means the rest of the team is going off too. You know what I mean? So
Ortega's not showing very high ownership either for 2.6.
That surprises me a little bit. 2 home runs the other day in a game, and including that walk-off. I
just think there's so many plays at outfield. I think that's what people are struggling to get to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good call, and that's why you can not worry as much about the ownership in the outfield. And like I said, part of my strategy, I've talked about this so many times this year, and last year was much more effective. It's been effective this year, it just hasn't been as effective for me because I haven't got the right infields. But when you can stack a team's infield with the options, the slew of options you have at wherever you want to do it outfield, it always feels good no matter the price of that stack you're taking on the infield. Detroit sort of fits that category. Boston definitely fits that category, although you would throw in JD Martinez or one of the outfielders if you want to, but you can play Devers, Vasquez, Xander, Bogarts, and then Kike if you want to. So you can stack them on the infield and then just include JD. Atlanta is probably one of the better examples other than their catcher. Like you have the minimum Smith, so you can use them as a minimum. But Freeman, Albies, Swanson, and Riley are the ones I want the most anyway. So I like the teams you can stack on the infield. The Yankees don't fit that criteria as well because you'd want to probably get, if you're making a full stack of the Yankees, it's hard not to imagine 2 of those outfielders, right?
Yeah.
But if you play an Atlanta stack on the infield and then you play all the Yankees outfielders, use Sanchez or play a 4-4 like that, I love doing that. I actually did that in one of my lineups, so you guys can figure out that combination. Play the Yankees outfield with the Atlanta infield.
Yeah, the only problem is I really like Solera. And
I like him too. The one thing about Solera, but it's less worrisome because of the fact they put Jock in the lineup today. But initially, that was a very scary spot to have him because if whoever started, like once they bring in a righty later in the game, not to say that we don't know what Atlanta is going to do with Solera and Duvall in that situation with Jock Peterson on the bench. But with him starting, I think Solera is the better play than I initially had him rated. So I probably should get a little more Solera because that was my fear was the pinch hit risk.
Heck, if you want, load up Atlanta outfield.
No, you could.
Crazy.
I'm just saying the guys I want the most are probably Riley, Swanson, and I actually love Freeman. I don't mind that it's still against the lefty. They all have and Albies, because the stolen base upside is there for all but Riley. And you want the stolen base / power upside against Lester. So I actually think you're right. You could use the Atlanta outfield, but I'm just saying that I find
the top 5 guys right there: Freeman, Soler, Albies, Riley, and Duvall. Those are the top 5 in that stack.
Yeah, I agree. I think Swanson gets in there too, because he has some stolen base upside and power upside.
Yeah, he's real close to that 5th spot over Duvall, or even they're all tight between Riley, Swanson, Duvall, projected wise. So
yeah,
you can go with any of those guys for sure.
The reason I've gone with more Swanson, and I think this is important to stress, like again, shortstop, well, usually loaded this year, is not loaded with great plays in there. I mean, Bichette sure is fine. Bogarts I like, and in my Boston stacks, Story's a fine play. But Tim Anderson's fine. But I don't mind spending down for Swanson there and then paying up for the guys I want in the outfield or at the other first base positions if I want to. That's just sort of the approach I took. And I also am paying up for catcher more than usual tonight.
Really?
Yeah, just other than my Atlanta stack. I mean, I'm not going to play the White Sox cheap guy. I'm not going to play as much Kevin Smith as I can possibly do. But like I'm going to have. Well, Vasquez is not paying all the way up, but I'm going to play some Haas. I'm going to play some Contreras, and I'm going to play some Real Muto as one-offs.
Will Smith's price came down a little bit too. He's down to 4.2.
Oh, Stassi's a good player catcher too, by the way. Adam just mentioned. Was that who did you say? Will Smith? Oh yeah, Will Smith.
Yeah,
go ahead.
If Will Smith's in, you think he's going to be in? I mean, we don't have a lineup, but he's projecting decent if he gets in.
He should play today. But the problem is, like, I mean, it's just a matter of, is he better? All these other guys have great matchups. He doesn't have like a good matchup. True. Like McCullers is probably one of the 7 best pitchers on the slate, 6 best pitchers on the slate. It just happens to be the Dodgers are a good lineup. That's why it's scary. But Will Smith is part of that. But it's just I just would rather the other guys around him, I guess. But I do like him. He's great against righties too. Has power against righties. Adam asked again about McMahon down to 6th in the lineup. Yeah, I don't even care where he's hitting in the lineup. It actually is just better to me. In Colorado's case, it doesn't matter to me. I actually like that McMahon's further down to keep his ownership a little bit lower. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that play at 3rd. I think there's a lot more third basemen than you think. Mm-hmm. You got Devers, Turner, Bryan in there, Bodie, Wisdom can play 3rd. A lot of guys.
No, I love 3rd, but
Riley, some really good. A lot of 5K guys down even later, like. Well,
the spend up. So I'm talking about people are going to spend up on. They're going to spend up on Devers above those guys.
Yeah,
except for possibly. Who else did you? I'm trying to think. Oh, Chris Bryant will be in there too.
Yeah, Bryant's up there in the top. Yeah, he's high owned.
Yeah.
Hey man, my man Escobar popping off the other night for that Brewers stack.
Oh, I love Escobar. And he'll be low owned today too.
Yeah, he's low owned and he's down the list a little bit in projection wise. But if you're doing a Brewer stack, you might be able to get different with that stack. I think I like that stack today, lower owned too. So I don't know. I don't have enough lineups in tonight, Bobby. I can't get to all these great plays.
You can't get to all this stuff. And by the way, the Brewers also fit what I like. They have the Narvaez catcher option, which I like a lot too.
Yeah, that's why a big reason why I like stacking them, because I was just looking at who I want to play catcher. So,
yeah. McMahon is, but McMahon's a fine. There's so many good plays. Everybody you're going to ask me about, I'm going to say yes. You know what I mean? I can just say that already. Ruff, Caselli, Bryant, sure. Ruff as a one-off, sure. There's just everybody. This is not a slate where there's not a bunch of good plays. It's baseball. You got to take your picks and try and run with it. Try and build the most optimal lineup you can, and also to get against the grain, which is why I do a lot more of my 4-man things, and I stick to certain one-offs that I want to be way overweight on, like JD Martinez. And I think that you try to get different, but it's everybody we could ask about as a hitter goes. I think we would just go ahead and say, yeah, sure, that makes sense, right? Like I haven't, unless you asked a really crazy question, mostly everybody's asking about. I'm like, yeah, I like all those guys. I have some rough one-offs, by the way. I don't love that I have him there, but I think he's a great pinch hit risk. Also, he's totally could happen. But I do like him as a one-off. I like Casali as a catcher. I like Bryant a lot. So yeah, I like all of that. It just it's hard to you got to plant your flag in certain things. You know what I mean? You're playing 2 lineups. I'm playing a lot more, and I'm trying to stick to 4 stacks, and even that's hard to do.
For sure.
It's just there's a ton of good plays on this slate, so it's hard to. Our job is to try and find the best ones, and that's what I've tried to do with my New York, Boston, Detroit, Atlanta, factory and ownership, of course. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Did we get a Boston lineup yet?
No,
I
don't have it.
They play right away too.
I know, it's really weird, and it's kind of worrying me. I'm worried I'm gonna have to do a late COVID swap with the way the world's going these days.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be. They're probably gonna come in a lot lower owned now too.
Yeah,
and if they make a bunch of changes to their lineup for something.
Sure. Yeah, we don't even know what the lineup's going to be. I mean, that Frenchie Cordero spot is always volatile. We don't know that it's going to be him. Could be a whole. Yeah, it's true. Could be totally different. Yeah. So anyway, guys, Grossman or Baddoo for Detroit. I prefer Baddoo. How about you? But I like both a lot.
I like both. Yeah, I like both. Baddoo is probably getting a little bit more ownership, ain't they? So
yeah, but I don't think
it really depends on your lineup. I mean, he's going to be the top guy over Gross. Well, they're both about the same.
Yeah, they're very close for me, but I do just think Badoo's a better player. Or will prove to be a better player very shortly, and definitely projects better. But they're like, you're talking about a guy who's going to be 5% owned versus a guy who's going to be like 3% owned probably. Looks like Mancini's out of the lineup now for Baltimore. I just saw that. I didn't realize that before.
Interesting.
I mean, it's still cheap guys. I think it's one else, but it does make it makes it a little bit interesting for that Yankees for minimum cost guy. I just think that I'm not saying go crazy with it, but getting 5% of it if you're playing a bunch of lineups, or getting maybe even up to 10% of it, it might. We haven't seen those giant 30+ pitching performances that often on DraftKings very much lately, and getting 15 points from a cheap guy. If you really want to spend up on the expensive bats, then it makes sense. But there's also a lot of cheap bats, so it just depends on how you're constructing. But I think that's an interesting play still. All right, man. How about some final thoughts before we get out of here? You're big on. We know your teams. You're playing 2 lineups. Let me ask you this: how are you going to do it? Are you going to put? Is it going to be the same stack? Is it going to have 2 different stacks, 2 different combo stacks? What are we sort of looking at? You don't need to give us everything. Just give me an idea of what you're doing.
I'm probably going to go 2 different combo stacks. I'm looking at probably Atlanta as a 5-man right now. And it's I have a hard time getting off the Dodgers, but I really like the Brewers too. But another problem there is I don't have a Yankees or Rockies one. So do I combo those with those teams as a 3-man, get the homer upside, or how do you do it? And then pitching's expensive tonight unless I play that Gill guy, but he might be too risky for that qualifier. I don't know, but it could be a good play too.
Yep. Yeah. I think it might be a risky one for it, but I think it's one of those that, we've seen guys like that put up 20 fantasy points in these spots before. And if he gets to 15, I think you're happy if it builds you the way you want to go. I'm not going crazy with it, but I think the thing is about your Manaea call is Manaea is not going to be owned. I don't think at all. Right.
Yeah. So I'm already low on there. I think I love that play.
Yeah, I love the Maeda one for similar things. I think there's a lot of upside for
I might have to get down to one of those guys we just talked about over Wheeler, I think.
Yeah.
Wheeler's coming out the best play, but
man. I'm still heavy. I think if I was playing 2 lineups for me on DraftKings, I would definitely have Wheeler in both of them. But I don't think that, I can't even confidently say exactly who my next guy would be, except for that Maeda would probably be in one of them for me. And then C's makes a lot of sense on paper, but I'm still sort of blown away by his K prop. It doesn't make sense to me that he got a 7.5 K prop in this matchup against a team that he's pitched against 5 times in his career and has never struck out 7 of them, I don't think. And this year they struck out less, so it's a little bit worrisome for me. But again, I trust Vegas. You know what I mean? It is a little bit. It keeps luring me into. Am I making a mistake by not just playing him over Maeda? Maybe, but I am gonna probably get some. Oh, one other guy I didn't mention who I have 6% of is Johnny Cueto. This Arizona team is so bad, and Johnny Cueto is an odd pitcher who can just throw people off just with the way he pitches. That's what he does. So I think Cueto's kind of interesting. Pitched well against the Dodgers. Hasn't put up less than 14 in his last 4 starts, put up 23 against the Dodgers the other day. This is the weakest lineup he'll have faced. Definitely looking like probably a win. I think Cueto is an interesting play to get 20 fantasy points for you at 7K too.
Yeah, I like that too. That was one of my get weird. I never listed my get weird guys in the Discord, but Cueto, Gill was on that. Patino maybe against Seattle. He's a get weird play too down there in that same range. What's your thoughts on Jordan Lyles before we go? I mean,
I think Patino's a better play than I talked about. I think I should have said more about Patino, by the way.
Yeah, man, 5 point. He's only 5.1. I don't know.
Wait,
where's your lady Linda? Where's Linda?
Oh no, that's Lyles. Oh, Lyles. I actually do have a Lyles lineup.
You do like Jordan Lyles?
Yeah, I do because he's got a leash and he's facing a pretty weak offense. And somebody asked before about Upton. I do like Upton as a one-off. I even think the Angels are like one of those teams you could look back after the day and go, oh, obviously we should have played the Angels. Like look at who they're facing, But I also think Lyles at 5,100 has enough upside to get to 20, where I think he's totally worth it. It's hard to get guys with his leash at 5,100.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The leash thing. All right, I have to get myself a little bit of the Patino in there, so I'm going to do some of that, guys. I hope everybody does really well tonight. Let us know how you guys are doing. And good, Boston lineup's apparently out, so I'll see what I have to do, what I have to edit when I get off here. Brody, good luck. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Always great to have you. Drop great insight, and I hope you win the qualifier tonight.
I need one. Yeah, thank you, my guy. Let's get it tonight, guys.
All right, let's get it, brother.
You still talking? Are we still live? Oh no, he like muted or something. That was odd. What the hell happened?